Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might put it in our role-playing campaigns. With me, as ever, is Hamilton of Dragon's Duel. Hello, Hamilton.
Hello, Fiona. How are you?
I am really well, thank you. Just having a long chat about Thunderbirds before this conversation, as one does.
It's very important. Very important. Not as important in D&D, obviously. But...
Obviously not. No. How have you? How are you on the D&D front? You were talking before about your Curse of Strahd campaign and all that sort of thing.
Yes,
enjoying it.
I am as much as you can with creepy children and dolls and mists that chase me. But yeah, it's fine. I'm freaking out. I've been pinging off the detect good and evil, so I've run out of those now. My hit dice, I've used all my hit dice up already. I've only got 7 hit points and we're about to enter a creepy house. I feel great. There's blood coming out of trees. What more could you want?
Classic Ravenloft.
Oh, Ravenloft in the winter.
Oh, well, where we're going, we don't need Ravenloft.
Yes, we don't. We don't indeed. How's your D&D going?
My D&D is going very well, thank you. We've had a couple of weeks off. Last night we finished, it's still coming out on the podcast version, but we've been doing The House of Lament, or Lamont, as I've been pronouncing it completely incorrectly, from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which essentially is a spooky house with seances, sort of one shot, and we've been running it using... a mechanic called Survivors, which is a bit like if you've read Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, they introduced this thing officially called Sidekicks, where they weren't fully fleshed out characters. They were just sort of to make it a bit balanced so that, when you create your minor characters, they don't necessarily take the win and such. So we've been using something called Survivors, which is a very similar mechanic, i.e. they're not as powerful as fully fledged player characters, but they are horror themed. So they are the you'd imagine them being like the person that survives after a horrific attack and all that sort of thing. So,
and they what sort of age your party, or they
No. So I made the party play Survivors.
Oh right, sorry. Oh shit. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. It is. The one shot is
for. Made them have a really bad time.
Oh yes, we finished it off finally though, and they had it again. It's just more testing out the story element of it, and they've got some things. So when you level them up, they do have like certain abilities. So like there's one that was like wailing scream. So if you use that as your reaction, you can re-roll the dice and see if you get the higher number as a scream, getting away from stuff and all that sort of thing.
Cool. I've not actually read. I've not read Van Richten's all the way through. As you know, I'm not the biggest horror fan, even though I'm playing Curse of Strahd. True. But also I'm glad I haven't, because I don't want to spoil anything for Curse of Strahd. I don't know if it does, but I haven't delved into it as much as the other books. So. That's quite interesting. I'll have a look at them.
Yes, I think it's at the end of Van Richten, and there isn't too much in terms of spoilers, because it does talk again. I know it's not what the episode's about today, but the Van Richters does talk about these domains of despair, which Barovia is one of them, which is where Curse of Strahd is. But Hamilton, we're not going to talk about domains of despair. No. We are going to talk about a domain of delight, or sort of. Yes. Shall I tell you what we've been? Well, you know what we've been reading this week, but shall I tell our viewers what we've been?
Why not?
This week?
Let's do it, because they have no idea yet, do they?
No, they've just sat here listening to us babbling on. So I'll say, sort of for transparency at the top of this episode, I was sent from, I guess, friend of the show now. I guess that's how this works. So when people send me things, somebody called Jimmy Flowers, who goes under the name, I think it's at Splinterverse on Twitter. And they have written a companion, or a compendium, of Feywild stuff to be... That sort of came out in conjunction with the Wild Beyond the Witchlight release. So today we're going to be looking at Feywild Companion, which you can get on DM's Guild for $14.99. But obviously, full disclosure, I was kindly gifted this, and I therefore gifted it to Hamilton to read as well. So I'm not saying that we're sponsored by them or anything like that, but we did get this very kindly as a gift. But obviously, I'm sure we can share the link out when this episode goes out of where you can get this.
I'll try and put it in the bottom here somewhere now.
Great. Seamless. That worked out really well. But yes, so I thought it's an interesting one, because I am not someone who actually uses a lot of homebrew stuff, and I've only recently discovered DM's Guild, which I know is like, what? It's been around for years. So it's nice to see like something like this, which is obviously very current, as we know. We talked about Wild Beyond the Witchlight and sort of that Feywild stuff sort of last week, our first impressions. So this is like a group of writers' own interpretation of the Feywild and what they'd include in it and stuff, with very little knowledge of what was going to go into the book. I think just to say at the top of this, they, in their introduction, obviously they talk about what's in it, but they said, yeah, we started coming together in May of this year when we first heard Wild Beyond the Witchlight was being released. And so that was May. It's obviously now September where it's come out. So that was like a good 4, maybe 5 months of solid work. And my God, like
it shows though they have definitely done a solid piece of work, and obviously it's all well put together. I mean, we can't show any of the pictures of it, but it's one of those. It's done in the classic D&D format, and which is nice. You know, I like that if you're doing something that it definitely is focusing. As a graphic designer, I'm always the person that wants to add my own little spice to it, but I think they've done a really good job at making it fit with the rest of your book collection, and it's very well. It's well put together and well written as well. There's some really good bits of writing in there, actually.
And I wondered, I don't know if you saw, but on the sort of introduction page where it gives the credits, there is a list of illustrations and the illustrator names and what page they're on.
They did do that, yes.
I saw that and I thought of you after our conversation last week. So, and I thought that actually was actually a really smart idea. So if you didn't want to put the name of the artist underneath because there wasn't any space, you could at least put them as a sort of a content list.
DM's Guild requirement.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and someone who puts stuff out on DM's Guild, I think you can. It's been a while. It's been over a year since I last put something out on there. I'm trying to rewrite something at the moment, but you have to at least acknowledge them either on the page or in a credits note. So, which is very good, and I think that's and it's something that I mentioned last week. As I said, I wish D&D do that. Wizards would do that as well. But yeah,
how interesting. Well, and then yes, again, like obviously it says, you know, stuff like front cover and actually what it is. So like these figures on this page by so and so, and then obviously because it's a PDF, it links to them as well. So that's, I just thought, again, it seems such a small thing, but when we are, you know, creatives in a creative space, it's so nice to actually see that thing. So hey, Wizards, consider.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I really like that. And the links thing is actually really good because you were like, oh, I really like that piece of artwork. Just click on it, and you can just follow them.
Follow it. But yes, this sort of companion, it has stuff like new subclasses, backgrounds, monsters, adventures, encounters, spells, feats, optional rules. There's a lot packed into 150 pages, as we know from finding out today, reading it through.
I have read it for more than one day, but when you first said to me, and I was like, oh, right, okay, so we're going to talk about this for an hour, are we? Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
So we will say, obviously, this is a very, very brief overview of stuff. And if any of this you find really, really interesting stuff, please go and have a look and go support people like Splinterverse on DM's Guild. I'm sure, again, I say this without actually checking, but I'm sure there is a full-page preview or a quick preview of these sort of things. So if there's anything there, you can at least look at the first couple of pages and check them out.
And also, if you do read it and you have anything to talk about, I am eager to talk more about it, and I'm sure Fiona would be. So just hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitters are below, but you're at the DM's Book Club, and I am at DM_doesn't or at Dragon's Duel, whichever one. I'd be more than happy to talk more about it because there is a lot in here, and I'd always like to hear people's thoughts. That's
and considering that the Feywild is such a big thing just now, it's obviously the most thing releases. There's a lot of stuff in here, and I've gone ooh, and so I'm definitely going to go back and read through it with a more keen eye to put the stuff in. So I guess Hamilton, where would we like to start? What's the thing that's standing out to you? Would you say?
Well, I think going in order, but I think it works going to some of the character origins are quite interesting. I think there's something that I've picked out about them particularly, which I want to make a note of. But they have it's 3 character backgrounds. I think that's correct. Yes, which is the Feybound, the Green Seer, and the Kiloran. I believe that's how you pronounce it. So the off the top of off the simple version, Feybound is someone who's been lost or gone disappeared in the Feywild, a bit like the Fey Lost actually that you have in Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Very similar, isn't it?
Very similar. And then there's the Green Seers, which are basically beings that have become one with nature through some sort of
literally,
yeah. And then the Kiloran, which are basically humanoids that have basically got like a elemental, have got an affinity to a particular type of natural environment, so like jungles or swamps or forests, which is something I actually thought of once of doing before, thinking that'd be quite a fun. Well, I never got around to it, so I'm glad someone better than me did it. So that's
it's
true.
like what's the word when you're in an improv scene, you hold 1,000 tiny funerals for all your ideas you bring and they die, and that's the thing I always think is like, I had this idea, it's gone.
Yeah. I see it as I have a shore of messages in bottles that never get past the breaker waves. That's how I see it.
Oh, that's an incredible image, but also incredibly sad.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can have that whilst you're having your soup and you want to cry into it. So anyway, with that, I think the thing I wanted to note about these Feybound and the Greenseers particularly is they have these origins, and they're very negative, very dark. So there's the Feybound. So people get lost in the Feywild. The idea is you're a being that's been lost in the Feywild and therefore get touched by this, and so it gives you some origins things. So there's a classic one, which is sort of Alice in Wonderland. You see a magical creature and you follow it into the woods. But there's the ones where you and your friends...
Number 2 and number 4, yes.
Yeah, number 4 is you and your friends bathe in the waters of a moonlit pod. When you emerged, everything surrounding the water looked different. Eventually you discovered that you had crossed over into the Feywild. None of your friends survived. That's it. They're all dead. That's it. Yeah, it's bad. And then, number 2, you were having a picnic with your significant other in the wilderness. You both ended up in the Feywild. Your loved one died whilst you were there. It's like, okay, why does everyone have to die? It's meant to, it felt a little bit, I think my only thing was that it just felt very dread-like. And it's sort of like the Feywild is, I know it's a dangerous place, but in my mind, the Feywild is very much Disneyland, which comes up, you've got Alice in Wonderland. We're going to have a bit of Beauty and the Beast. We're going to have a bit of Snow White later on. That's kind of what the Feywild is. It's those sort of magical, mystical story tales. And I think, I don't know, it just felt, and then going to the Greenseer, like, you wake up and all your organs have been turned into
living
plants. Living plants. And it's like some sort of like...
That's a great one. You're
woke up in a bathtub, sort of thing.
You're missing your kidney.
Exactly, yeah.
having like an orchid growing out of it. Yeah, it says altering your physiology in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
I think I totally see what you're talking about here. I think maybe what they're trying to emulate is that whole sort of grim fairy tale thing. So if you think like Ugly Duckling, the Snow Queen, that sort of thing, and it's like 100%. Beautiful but also dangerous. I do agree though. I think I one thing that came to me after you spoke to me about this, and I was like, ooh, so I went back and had a look at it. It feels very much like if you've ever watched like Doctor Who and they've taken like a historical companion for many episodes, they are like somebody out of time, and they realise that, like, I'm sure like Amy Pond says at some point, she goes, I'm calling, it's Rose Tyler, I think, but I'm calling my mum, but she's dead. She's dead now where I am. And I think that as a storytelling roleplay thing is interesting, but then they do get to go back to where their loved ones are. And I think I've always think that's very important when you're creating characters, that you do have a connection somewhere. And so I do think it's interesting, because obviously the big thing about Feywild, which we have spoken about before on other episodes, and I think last week, that idea that time moves differently there.
Yes.
So it makes sense that when you go back, none of the life that you knew is still there. Like the gnome that comes back after a short trip to the Feywild, somebody else is living in their house. The town they grew up in has grown so much. So I think there's that element of it, but none of them survived. It's quite final.
I wasn't saying it's not bad. It was just kind of jumped out at me at this sort of like, oh right, okay, I was expecting something. I think it's because I was expecting something much more much more light, I guess. And then it just kind of stuck with me, like, okay, this is good. Which actually the book does have a lot of light touches to it. It just was funny how these.
I think it's interesting as well, because if we go on to the traits a little bit as well. So there's something called Feywild Trigger. So you were lost in the Feywild for so long that something about you isn't quite right. At times when you are triggered and taken back to the Feywild and you are taken back to the Feywild in your mind, when this happens, onlookers will describe you as having a blank stare. And then you roll. So when you gain this lineage, roll a d20. The number you roll becomes your trigger. Whenever you roll 20 and your trigger happens, then you are catatonic for a second, and then a wild effect for her. So they have a whole list at the back of this book of different wild effects, like sort of wild surges. And for me, I feel like what they're trying to do is obviously give you some sort of story element, a story like hook per se. I'm not, again, I guess depending on how you run your table and stuff, I'm not a big fan of having that sort of trauma, especially making it as a role-playing mechanic, per se. Like, I think that should be a discussion between players and stuff. I think it's an interesting idea. I think that's the thing. I don't want to, again, there's other things about this which I really, really enjoyed, but I think there's something about it I was a bit like, I'm not sure I would talk to that player about it, because like, if it's a role that comes up quite regularly, I think they do stop it after a while, from what I remember. But once this has been triggered twice, you can't use it again until you complete a short rest. So you can only wild surge twice. Just the one last thing I want to talk about on the Feybound before maybe going over to the Green Seer. They have an ability called Time Slip. I don't know if you saw this.
Yes.
So occasionally you feel time on the material plane slow, to allowing you to change your mind before anyone notices. So if an action you take fails due to a roll you may attempt an entirely different action. As far as anyone knows, the original action never happened. So very Quicksilver. Once you've used this feature, you can't do it until a long rest. I think that's really interesting. So you could find out in combat somebody's weakness. Or you're like, you go, I cast fire bolt at someone. He goes, it's immune to fire. Yeah. I take that back. Well, actually, it's if it fails a check, doesn't it? Never mind. Yeah. But I guess you could work around that. So I just find that it's an interesting one. But I wrote
this, and I really did. And I think it's a really cool feature, and I think it's something that I think it gives a bit of advantage. But so does lucky. There's luck, the lucky feat, and I think it's not. You don't get it until. Do you get it straight away? I can't remember.
I think with lineages, you get it straight away.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's quite an interesting early on one, but it's a once per long rest, and you never get more than that.
Human variant gets lucky as a straight away feat, doesn't it?
You can choose to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In Arcus,
I always pick it. So
if someone's doing it as well. So to be fair, that kind of balances out, and I think but I like just the fact that you can't then do the same action. I thought it was a really nice little twist on it, because
you have to take a completely different course of action. Yeah, as flavour wise, it seems really really interesting.
100%. No, it's really cool, very cool.
So the Green Seers then. For this, I really liked, because obviously you've talked about the origin ones, which is, the one for me that stood out to me was a Fey found you dying in a forest. In saving you, they also transformed you, which to me screams Tim Burton's Batman with Catwoman being rescued by cats.
Yes.
I just imagine you dying and little mushrooms come.
and then you become well, then you'd have to be a spores druid then, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And so and this is what I quite like. Again, with this whole companion, and I know with every homebrew stuff, tables upon tables of inspiration. But what I love is that, in my head, I guess I see. You think, it's always going to be like plants and leaves, or like a poison ivy-esque things. But then they have stuff like it could be fungi, or moss. And I love that as an idea. Like, I know some people are a bit creeped out by fungi, but it's like a spores druid or something like that, like having a toadstool on your back or something like that. I think just the image of it is just really interesting, and stuff like having like mistletoe or yew as well, making it a seasonal character.
I like that. Yeah,
be quite cool.
The berries one, the berries, vegetables, or similar, reminds me of those portraits of faces.
Yes.
The ones where they've got
I can't remember what the artist is called. Yeah, you can make it out. Yeah, those are really cool.
They're great.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just that really interesting thing. And then the other origin one, which made me laugh, was your prayers to the gods for a plentiful crop were heard and granted. The crop just happened to be you. It's like, oh no.
I know, it's such a great tagline for a movie as well, isn't it? It's like, I can imagine that one. Like Triffid's 10 or something like that. I think it's, but yeah, they're quite fun. The blossoms, I thought, was their real main thing.
Do you want to describe what that is? Because I was quite curious about this one. Yeah, how people would find this.
Exactly. So they have this ability to grow blossoms on themselves, from what I gather from it. So your Green Seer's body grows blossoms capable of causing various effects. So they have an aromatic one, which blows soothing scents of blossom towards the creature, which I like, because this again feels more like that Feywild, the sort of sensual thing we were talking about in the Witchlight last week. which attempts to lull you into sleep. So I'm just imagining lavender. Lavender and chamomile. Sort of smells. Here I am drinking a peppermint tea because I'm doing DM's book club. It's a book club.
It's a book club. We have to have You
have to have calm teas, not beers or something. And
that's the late book club.
That's book club after dark. And then and then you could basically they can fall unconscious with that. There's a nourishing one which gives people things to eat, which I think is great. Similar to other beings as well do that. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. The vined one, which is more of a sort of grappling thing, and then a warped blossom, which I thought was fun, which is you crush the blossom in your fist and whisper to an inanimate object consisting of mostly wood or other plant material within 30 feet. You can make a single alteration consisting of no more than 5 feet cube worth of the object's plant material. For example, you could warp a chair, making it break when someone sits down, or you could repair a large hole in an oak door, or transform a wooden shield, making it unusable. And I think it's just I just like the little bit of fairy dust. Let's use that as a term. They've sprinkled over that gives just a little bit more narrative play in that of the sort of you crush the blossom, whisper into the it's kind of I don't know. I just love that sort of imagery.
And I think, it's using that, again, that leaves, compared to the other three, which are all like something so like the vined one, like you said, that's all something you'd use in combat to restrain someone going away. The nourishing one, that's to heal. The aromatic one's go to sleep. Again, I was thinking proper like a gloom, Vileplume person doing this. And then the warped one, I do like that idea because you leave that to the interpretation of the player, of like, what do you do? Like, they're making a wooden shield unusable, or repairing stuff, or doing that sort of thing. It's very versatile, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what people come up with that, because I think I was trying to think to myself, like, how would I use that one? And there's always the worry when you see three really like ones you're like, oh, this has a purpose, and then one at the bottom where you're like, I'm not so sure. But I think very creative players will definitely be able to use that. So I really like that idea. I think the only thing maybe fun to play or role play is the disconcerting thing where you just like pull off like, oh, here, friend, here, try this, and pulling off a flower or whatever from your head. No, eat it. It's good. It's homegrown. And you're like, no.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone picking a scab and saying, "Want to taste?
Want to taste?" Yeah, exactly. Oh, do you wanna take some drugs? I've got the right blossom for it.
I've got some proper fungus going up here. This is gonna be great. I think the thing that I thought with the warp blossom is doors are no longer a problem, and therefore I'm gonna take this because I fucking hate doors. So that's it. It's a door. Okay, fuck it. I have warp blossom. It's fine.
Yeah, gone.
And
yeah.
How many times? Equal to proficiency bonus. So you start off with about 2. Then, which is quite a good amount.
All the way up to 5, I think, when you get to level 20, from what I remember. So so it's pretty not bad. And then getting them back on the long rest. So you can choose any of them, I think, which is good. Some of the stuff later on is like you pick this and you can change it with each level up, or change it on per long rest. Whereas this is like you have this choice, which I think is quite nice as well. Because then again, you might see a situation where you're like, oh, actually, this blossom would use better for this as well. The only thing I wanted to mention as well is plant nature. So as a creature type, you gain you are a plant, which is a great one sentence.
Yes, I did like that as well, because actually it's going to affect how you control people, I guess, and also what's the other one? Not Hallow. I'm not thinking of Hallow. Oh, what's the one where you sort of? Oh, it's gone straight out my head now. Not Hex, but it's a bad one. It's not Bless. It's one of those sort of things, and. Oh, I'm sorry. It's gone.
It will come back. It's that sort of thing. It will come back. So no worries. But I think so. You says you are a plant. It doesn't say you are a plant humanoid or anything like that.
No.
So you, as a result, for these creature types, you will get the strengths and weaknesses of what a plant is. So presumably, it doesn't make it clear here, but I would assume that as a plant you will be vulnerable to fire.
Yes.
As a result, but stronger in other things, and you get something called plant nature, which is your offers the following benefits. So you have resistance to poison and radiant damage. You spend at least
Blight.
Yes. Oh, Blight. There you go.
Sorry.
You got it.
It came to me. There it is. Sorry. Yeah.
Perfect. But but you're right. Certain spells won't affect this creature because they'll be like dominate person. technically not a person. Charm person, can't charm it, it's not a person. So all these little things that, again, as a DM, you might want to check the spells off before you if they're using a creature like this. And I think, again, Feybound as well, that's just Fey as well. That's not Fey human or Fey humanoid, etc. But yeah, so this is the thing for the Green Seer was if you spend at least 1 hour under bright natural sunlight or 4 hours under moonlight in a day, you don't need to eat. Makes
sense.
So, and that I would assume, unless you're doing like a big deep dungeon crawl, or unless you explicitly say like, oh, the weather's really bad or something like that, that's kind of solves that problem. I think that's just a really interesting thing where.
I like the idea of your player character going, I'm just going to go stand in some water for a bit. Why? Well, I just need to absorb some water through my roots. I just stand like that.
Yeah, for an hour. So again, it's just really cool. And then you do get the benefit of that meditation thing that elves get as well. So you only need to remain semi-conscious for 4 hours for resting. So, which I thought was interesting. So so those sort of two new the lineages I think they are quite interesting. Again, I think, like you said, there's some bits where we're like not so sure about that, but ultimately I do love the idea of having almost like, I guess, green seers in my head, again, like you said, that they're people that are made out of plants, so a bit very dryad like spirits in some way, but I'm just imagining someone's just covered in leaves really and hiding in the shadows and stuff. But I think both of them I really, really like. So why don't we go on to subclasses? Was there any subclasses that stood out to you? I'll just say again, there is so much in this book. So they've done a subclass for each of the, I'm going to say, 11 classes. I don't know if that's true off the top of my head.
There are 11 classes because I roll a d12, re-roll a 1. I think that's right.
Look at that. Amazing.
I think so. Or is it just a d12? No. Oh, crap. I think there's actually more.
Look at us being experts. Anyway.
I forget. I would have to look at my notes. Yeah, but there's a lot. Yeah.
There is a lot.
There are 12. There are 13. There are 13.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
There are 30. Well, now we all know there's definitely. So for this one, there's obviously 13 subclasses, one for each class that they created. So is there one that any one of these that stood out to you at all, Hamilton?
Yeah. I liked the mirror domain cleric. I thought it was. I thought it was quite interesting. It obviously kicked off. It goes in hand with the adventure and the the domain of delight they talk about, which is Dualis, which we might get onto a bit later, but which is the mirror domain. But it just obviously it kicked off immediately. As I said, it's Snow White, mirror on the wall. It's all that sort of. It's playing off those sorts of themes again, which I liked. And it's basically the cleric who. So the word is the mirror domain is devoted to the ideals of truth and self-reflection. Those who follow this domain craft a magical mirror that deflects harm, reflects a healing light, and connects them to knowledge. Which is that sort of mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all sort of feeling. And so you get you get some special spells as you do with your domain, which are sort of mirror image and shatter and sort of mislead, quite clear and obvious ones. Then you get these you create this mirror through a sort of 1 hour ritual, and once you've done that, you've got it until you sort of let go of it or summon it. You can sort of dispel it. And it gives you've got this lovely little table of mirror appearances.
They love their tables, don't they?
They do, yeah. Again, yeah. Sort of ornately carved wooden frame holds the circular mirror, or glass mirror is wider at the top and tapers as it approaches the bottom. I'm imagining a sort of Venetian mirror. Do you know those Venetian mirrors, which are layered, very Art Deco-y, with a bit of Renaissance twist to them? Lovely.
Absolutely.
Sort of and so you get mirror deflection, which is if you were hit by a ranged spell attack, you may use your reaction and your source mirror to deflect all the damage back onto the caster or another creature you see, which is quite cool. I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever sticks
back to you.
Bounce of you, sticks off. I can't remember. I can't remember off something. But yeah.
But I guess it. I will say it's within 30 feet of you. So that's what they say. But still, that is pretty cool. I love that idea. And yeah, like you were gonna say, like that chosen creature becomes the target of that attack using the same roll. So they could roll really high, like a natural 20, but you deflect it and it goes back to them, and they're like, oh, whoops.
It's just the sort of, I'm imagining the Iron Man laser out of his hand, and then it kind of, you get the mirror out, you get Captain America's shield, and it goes bing bing off onto someone else. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I got those vibes as well. That you just suddenly, your hand. You can make your mirror appear and disappear. So you just like hand over, and then just appearing. Oh, very
cool. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reflection one, which is if you help with a ranged spell attack, you can use a reaction and your source. So it's a reaction as well, which I think is just kind of interesting, because obviously then it does take away other reactions as well, which is good. But it's quite nice to have something that's very reaction heavy. I like playing on those things a bit more than a lot of people just make things bonus actions, that's all. And I think it's quite fun to have more reaction play in the game, because it makes it much more back and forth feeling of a battle. Because sometimes
Absolutely.
it's very much turn-based JRPG. Like I'm going to take my turn. Now I take your turn. But I like that sort of back and forth. The reflection one is the new, you hit with the ranged spell attack, you use reaction, your source mirror to reflect all the damage as healing towards another target. The new target regains hit points equal to the damage that would have been dealt. No additional effects from the spell transfer to the new target.
How cool is that? Like,
very cool.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think with this, I totally agree with what you're saying about the reaction things. The only one that I can think of reaction, or the only two spells I can think of reaction, which is used very regular, is like shield.
Yes.
So you get that extra AC, or the other one that's gone out of my head. See, it all goes out of my head quickly. Is counterspell.
Yes.
And those that's sort of back and forth sort of thing. So I like this as a reaction. So you see the damage incoming, and you're just like, oh no, and then you shift it off, and you only have enough energy to do that once, because then you could get hit by something else, because you're getting rid of one damage and then possibly opening yourself up for more things, so like attacks of opportunity and stuff. So, and these are all ranged stuff as well. It's just nothing, if someone's up close to you, then you can't do that. You can't think. So I thought that was interesting. And ranged spell attack as well. So it's not like ranged weapons or anything like it. It is spells.
It's definitely, it does limit it a bit, but which makes sense. But I really like it. And the other ones, Sentinel is always used a lot as well. Sentinel, because if you're a pally, you just sort of grab the sword out of the hand.
Not going anywhere. Stay here.
Yeah. And there's the other one that I think that's also what monks can do as well, but they have a lot more reactions, which makes again a lot more sense, because it's much more back and forth, which I quite like. But I think clerics, it's a good. I think it was a good one for clerics. I could have seen it as a paladin sort of oath as well. Something to do with like a mirror domain oath. I thought was fun, but it really works well. And there's other things in there that are really great, but I think they're the key points of it.
Yeah, definitely. And then I was going to say the other ones are like they're just helpful in other ways. But the one at the end, the Pierce the Veil, so level 17. Sorry, when you do mirror deflection, you deal maximum damage rather than the result of the attack roll. Likewise, mirror reflection regains hit points equal to the max damage that could have been dealt. So that's level 17. Obviously, you're high power players. So I like that in a sense of like you get to the high level and you're still using this, because I can imagine if you're like, oh, it's fine, they'll be okay, but actually being able to use your reaction, and it's reaction, so you get this back on every single turn of combat. The new round. There you go, the round of combat. So that is, I feel that's such a valuable thing. And you're right, it doesn't, because it's a reaction, it doesn't take away from you doing spells and doing other things. I think sometimes when you get new subclasses, it suddenly becomes all about these extra things, and you always have to remember those things. And but you could also do spells. I mean, the clerics could always hit with a quarterstaff if they really need to, but usually they're going to be spell slinging. So that's mostly, like you said, their actions going to be taken up, and maybe very little for bonus actions. Whereas this, I quite like this, like you said, reaction, but it's purely on these two things. Everything else, like the other two things, are just like helpful in like, you get a bit more damage here, or you can cast rituals without preparing for them. So I think I love that as a thing. Like it's a cool concept. We all love a good mirror. And it's very simple. I think that's the thing I always find with subclasses is sometimes there's so much in them that I'd forget about all the good stuff. So this mirror domain, so simple. You literally have two things, and I think they're really useful two things as well. So
the only thing I thought was missing, if I can say that, was it did say like it reflects healing light and connects them to knowledge. I didn't feel it did. I thought they could have just played a little bit more on the knowledge thing. That's where the only thing I would have added was something that like a portent maybe. So you use the mirror to it gives you those. I guess it's the mirror spells that you gain, which is the knowledge.
Do you want to explain what portent is? Because I know what it is, but if people who are watching, go for it.
So portent is the ability to store rolls, basically. So you can make some rolls and you can store them, and you make your portent rolls. I can't remember how many you get at levels, but basically, let's say you have 2 portent tokens you can use. I go and roll 2 dice now, and I say, all right, then my portent dice. One of them could be a natural 20. I'm going to save that for later, and one of them could be a 4. But at least you could give that with that portent. No matter what the roll is, you can either give or use that roll. So say someone is attacking you. They roll a natural 20, you could use your 4 portent and say, I'm going to give them the 4. Because what you're in the sort of flavour for it is that you see into the future slightly, and with that, you know they're about to hit you with a critical hit, but you know that they're going to go to your left shoulder, and you shift out the way because you know you do your matrix move. And vice versa, you can say, all right, you hit with a 4, you roll a 4, and you go, I'm going to use my natural 20 right now, portent, which is that you get the see into the future, see that they're going to do the shifty, and so you hit them, sort of thing. And I just felt like a really good one to have added in, maybe for the mirror, because the mirror could show you
see alternate ways.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, something along those lines, that you look into the mirror and it shows you your future, your next move, or it gives you it gives you an alternate view in the mirror dimension of what's happening.
I think that's a fair point. I guess the only thing, for me, because obviously I can imagine that stacking with the for your deflection and reflection, if you had some really good rolls, you might want them to try and hit you so that you could deflect or
actually
reflect.
Yeah, you could stack that, couldn't you? I know, but it would be an additional reaction. So
yes, you're right. So so you couldn't do it. So that's very fair. I think what I would say, I guess, if they didn't want to do that, is maybe just giving yourself proficiency in intelligence checks relating to certain things. But I agree. I think for me, I quite like how it's simple is. But I agree. There's not much about the knowledge side of it. It is more reflecting, which maybe is a bit 2D and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that's a very good point.
I think it's still very good. It was just something that came to me when I was reading it.
No, I think completely fair. Completely fair.
So what one do you want to? Which one came?
I am so glad you asked. So Hamilton, we had a conversation earlier this week, and you were like, Fiona, you did a Dragon Plus article on Paladin Oaths, and you didn't use mine. And I was like, sorry. Well, guess what? I'm not going to talk about your Paladin Oaths
in front of everyone. I want to say that it was in jest.
Yes, it was in jest. But as a result, I'm still not going to talk about your Paladin Oath. I'm going to talk about this one instead.
I actually realised I talked about it on last week's episode anyway. So
did you?
I just keep talking about it, so go and buy it.
It's okay. So the Paladin Oath of Beauty.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure people do know this, but just in case you don't, so paladins have these things called oaths, and they to sort of symbolise their sort of philosophy and what they strive for. Normally, paladins strive for a certain philosophy or goal, usually good orientated, but sometimes not so good orientated. And these can take on different things, and it's their ideas of justice and righteousness, and obviously that is up for interpretation. That's sort of what's great about paladins is that it could be on anything. And so this one for the Paladin Oath of Beauty. They have these, and in each oath, they usually have 3 to 4 tenets, as it were. So for this, it just gives you a flavour of what it is. So for the Oath of Beauty, you have reveal beauty in all things. Beauty does not take one form. As with all things capable of beauty, spark the capability in everything and everyone you see. Which I love that as a sort of starting point is that these creatures, these paladins, they are like striving for beauty and everything. So they're like, we see that little spark, we want to make it happen, and it can be in objects, it can be in people, it can be in buildings, it can be in anything. And certainly in the flavor text, it talks about.
It does, yeah.
It's like natural beauty or beauty in something that mortals have created. It could literally be architecture. It's any of these things. Second tenet is eliminate ugliness, which is it's like beautiful ugliness. So when something is so devoid of beauty that it has become ugly, rid the world of its menace. Beauty cannot flourish where ugliness grows, which I love. I think it's such an interesting concept because obviously you could intersperse these words with like eliminate evil, eliminate capitalism, that sort of thing. And then third tenet, maintain your own beauty.
Yes.
Beauty begins within the body.
Yeah.
You cannot spread beauty in the world unless you are capable of recognizing your own beauty. So it's your own self-worth. Yes, you can even, that sort of thing.
To be honest, I do feel I am an architect, paladin, oath of beauty. That is what I am in my everyday life. Yay. I try to eliminate ugliness of architecture and promote beauty. So only if I could go on some sort of crusade where I could demolish some of the buildings.
Just rush in and it's like, bro, this is so ugly.
There's actually this is another tangent, sorry, but there's a Batman, there's an evil, there's a villain, a Batman villain called the Architect, who, and the storyline is, it's really beautiful actually. So there's a thing on the online about, someone wrote about it, which is very well put together, but basically Gotham is overrun by modernist architecture. And so, there's all these tall buildings that look all modern and have no really stripped back and simplistic and minimalist. And he hates it, so he starts destroying these buildings. But what it does is it the whole story the arc starts with this world, the sort of city looking a bit like that sort of modern day city. And only by him destroying them does it create Gotham, because it shows all the beautiful Gothic buildings that create Gotham.
How interesting.
So I don't know. It's sort of it just made me think of that.
I love that, but isn't that interesting? Because I think you could easily interpret that into being like a paladin oath sort of thing, to the point where it's too extreme that you're tearing down whole cities, where people live to create something, almost like this madman in quotation marks to build something new, and the big bad evil is actually somebody who's striving for their own things. So I think that's such a cool idea on that. And then, quickly, the final one on that tenet is show beauty to the world, so be an example to others. Let your beauty brighten the world, calling people to your cause like a lighthouse on the coast.
Lovely, isn't it? Yeah,
it's good, and the artwork for it is great. In my head, as a result, because again, you're thinking of beauty. Obviously, interpreting this how you want. I interpret this as a Valley Girl paladin. Let's just go shopping, but it's super positive.
It's totally amazing. I'm sorry, I just got. Here we go. This is my classic voice. I'm bringing out. So bloody cathartic when I get to, do my beacon of beauty, or my aura of beauty.
Hey.
Sorry.
Love yourself. Okay. Love yourself. No. But this is, and this is the thing. I think as soon as you're able to do a voice on something, you're you've got a character, you've got something in there. So I think I see this almost. I mean, I can even see this as like a Disney Gaston type character, that sort of sort of thing like that. And more tables in this, what is the beauty interest you have? So everything from inner beauty to outer beauty, architecture, natural beauty, supernatural beauty, magical beauty. So you could even have, I guess, if you wanted to do a side quest or something like that, which is about magical cosmetic stuff that's going wrong and stuff, and have a knight that's no, you're perfect just the way you are, and let me show you how.
She's all that.
She is all that, but I'll just quickly go through the two things I thought was interesting. So with paladins, you get something called channel divinity, which is their sort of main feature, a bit like those domain stuff from the mirror domain with the cleric. So you have at level 3, you get blinding beauty. As an action, you force each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet to make a wisdom saving throw. On a fail, the creature becomes blinded for 1 minute because of your beauty.
Do you know what this is? This is Zoolander.
Yes!
So beautiful! That's what it is, right?
It's you do your blue steel moment.
Yeah, it's It's Magnum, isn't it? Magnum's the one he does. Blue Steel's what he always does, and then Magnum's the one that he's been perfecting for years.
And then you also get something called Center Attention. So you can use, as a bonus action, you gain advantage on any charisma checks or saving throws for the next 10 minutes as a bonus action. So again, using that at the beginning of combat, maybe you rush in, going out, and then I guess, because charisma checks, because it's unlike, I guess for persuasion and stuff it's fine, but for saving throws, again, if you're in the Feywild, there's a lot of Fey use lots of charisma spells, and so it's probably good for that.
Can I also say what this makes me think of as well? Again,
absolutely.
I'm sorry,
go for it.
Bringing in the stupid things.
Do it.
Strixhaven, Mean Girls, a whole group of Paladin, Oath of Beauty, Mean Girls group, right? And they center of attention, they cast that just as they walk through the door. Wednesdays we wear pink, and then walk in. That's what it's so... Sorry, that's what it made me think of. So when I do my Strixhaven campaign, I want 4 people, all being Oath of Beauty, doing a Mean Girls.
We need, that needs to happen. Oh man, Mean Girls is such a great film. Anyway. I hadn't even clocked that Strixhaven would be great for that. Brilliant.
Sorry.
No, I think it's great. The final thing I want to talk about this, because obviously we're going to move on and stuff, but Restore Beauty. So at level 15, you gain the ability to restore beauty with your touch. As an action, you can use 1 hit point of your Lay on Hands pool. So every paladin will also have a pool of hit points, which most people will know of this, to cause the effect of a mending spell on an object, so you can mend items and stuff like that. So that's quite nice. Additionally, though, when you use Lay on Hands on a person, each hit point healed restores 1 year of vitality to the person's face.
It's the oil of Olay.
Yeah, it's just like cosmetic sort of style, like getting rid of the wrinkles and stuff. This effect only reduces the appearance of the age to the beginning of adulthood. So you don't get baby-faced grandmothers or something like that. But as a result, the creature who this happens to gains advantage on the next charisma check due to the boost in confidence it has gained.
It's great. There is so much that I want to do with this paladin. I think it's one of the best.
I just love that idea. Like it is like in my head, it's like the make under from Snogmaria Void or anything like that, and it's like I look so beautiful. Like yes,
Basically, Gokwan is an Oka Beauty paladin.
That is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So
That's a callback to people. We could have done Trini and Susanna, but they would be the evil paladins of beauty. Let's face it, Gokwan is the good paladin of beauty. 100%. Yeah.
But yes, and those are the main things I picked out from that, because I just thought it's just really interesting. And I think if you want to play like a holy knight that's not necessarily like zealous and like good righteousness and stuff, beauty's an interesting option. And I just feel like there's so much you can do with that as a result.
100%. There is a great one. And actually, I'm seeing the time, and there are lots that you kind of think, I'd love to talk more about. But I think there are some great ones. Is there any others that you think that you really want to mention?
I was going to give a quick shout out possibly to the College of Seasons Bard. Again, I think that's very Feywild stuff. You've got obviously like the different seasons and stuff. You have a table for rolling melodies and stuff, but there's also like for certain features you can have a spring version, and then when you level up you can change it if you want to be a summer one, a autumn one, a fall one, and then later on there's another one where you can pick a certain one as well, and they do different things. I can't remember the details just now, and obviously if we go into it we'll talk about it for ages. But I like that idea of like seasonal changes, because that is very Feywild and stuff.
Exactly. I think the only thing I would add to it would be, as a DM, is say that, and I'd ask the player, obviously I'd want to do this, but make it so that whatever the season is, that's what you're in, sort of thing, and make it so that it transitions as the seasons go, so that if they want to do that, I think that could be quite a nice little addition.
Absolutely.
As a variant.
Is there a shout out you want to do for any of the
only other shout out I'd give is the Rogue Reveler, which is just basically just a raconteur who uses intoxicating everyone else. And it sort of reminded me of a great character who I always thought was a rogue, and I did a sort of thing on Twitter about if you were going to play a rogue, and I always think Marion Ravenwood is one of my favourite characters. From, if people don't know, from Indiana Jones, Fate of Atlantis, she's the sort of the person who owns the amulet that becomes a staff, and she's great. And it just made me think of her drinking people under the table and sort of taking their money and sort of using the old spy trick of I don't know if you know this, they drink a load of olive oil so that you go into drinking contests, and it coats your stomach, and it gives you, if you drink enough of it, it can give you at least a few hours of lucidity, so that and enough time if you wanted to sort of not drink it, let's say, but allow yourself to become drunk later, so you can go look like you're getting drunk, keep drinking, it doesn't get absorbed into your body for a while, and then
interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of so it kind of reminded me of that.
Well, next time I'm at MI5 headquarters, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Exactly what you're doing. Yeah, and you can use exotic spirits and stuff. So it's just a fun one, and it's worth looking at.
And that's, you know what, I completely forgot Indiana Jones films were a thing, and I forgot how good a character she is in that, actually.
Really is a great character. Really. I mean, it's a great film, but
that first film was great. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be an Indiana Jones themed episode at some point. Shall we briefly talk about the backgrounds, like fleetingly?
You can talk about them.
Okay.
It's got clowns. I'm sorry.
So there are... No. I think it's interesting. So for this, again, because it's such a big compendium, there's two backgrounds that they've come up with. There's one called Dreamers, which is this idea, obviously, like you have visions, almost like a Cassandra-esque sort of moment where you could have stuff that predicts the future or not. And then there's lots of tables for that. And I thought that was okay. I think it makes sense for the Feywild. But then you have something called clowns. Now, again, I think it's fitting very much with the carnival theme they have for the Feywild. And excuse me, when I was reading through the tables, you could get all these different kinds of clowns that in your head, I was thinking like, oh, maybe some sort of like silent film star. So you're thinking of Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, all these sort of things. And it doesn't have to be an actual clown. It could be someone who is the class clown and stuff. But, and I'm only going to show this up because I printed the page out, because I printed the whole thing out. The artwork for the beginning of it is a terrifying, like, sort of It-like clown. Like, with like, definitely like, there's definitely something not right about it, and you don't know what it is. Very sinister, so maybe not one for it. I know there are some people who, I can't remember what the phobia name for it is called. If you're not into that sort of thing, don't do it. Like, you don't gain much out of it. It's a background, so you get like, is it sleight of hand, acrobatics, props for your act. Balls to juggle, handkerchiefs, noisemakers, or puppets. Could you imagine somebody bringing a puppet along and then talking through that puppet? You're talking through your character through a puppet. No, it's...
Sorry, I know Carnival's is all fine, but it's just the clown bit of it. It's just then the creepy speaking bit. It's just,
hello, children. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, you know what? I understand why they put it in, and it totally makes sense.
Yes, it totally does.
Not for either of us as DMs, unfortunately. Yes. So, sorry, no clowns in our campaign. Done. Yeah. All right. They've done other stuff, so like obviously specified spells, feats as well, which we're going to gloss over. But Hamilton, I wanted to talk about a specific magic item which I saw and thought was interesting. So on page 42, if you're following along at home, there is something called the Deck of Fortunes / the Deck of Torment. And it is sort of built a bit like what seems at first like a deck of many things, but the idea is that you have a full deck of cards, and then when you pull it out, a magical fey dealer appears, which I would think, if that happened, you would suspect something was up. Like, you just have a box of cards, and essentially you then play poker with this creature, and you can pull as many cards, and there's a little thing like if you pay a certain amount of money compared to your level, you can change what card it is, and all that sort of thing. And then depending on what your hand is, you can get certain things. So you can always go through just like, you just have a very high card, you can just get advantage, or you find an individual treasure if you do your next next investigation or perception check that's higher than a 10, all the way up to sort of like stuff like 4 of a kind, which is a random item in your possession gains 1 minor and 1 major benefit property from the tables of the DM's handbook, so almost becoming a wondrous item, which is quite good. A straight flush, so during the next 7 days you may call upon the DM to grant the benefit of a 7th level spell of their choosing. If the flush is royal, you may do this 3 times, but no more than once per day. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you get 5 of a kind, you gain 1d3 wishes. 1d3 wishes that work like the spell Wish.
Wait, how can you get 5 of a kind?
I don't think you can. Yeah, I literally just thought that out loud. But I think because you have jokers, don't you? I don't know. Anyway, regardless, that's still pretty cool. Yeah. However, this fey-like density that sort of is the dealer, there is a twist to this, and you'd only really find out again through doing experimentations with the deck, which is always really dodgy, or using the spell Legend Lore, which reveals the fates of the previous owners of the deck, the last of which includes now the enigmatic dealer. And essentially what happens is that when you deal a hand, the DM will take the sum of all the 5 cards with jacks, queens, kings, going like 11, 12, etc. If there's 30 or more, there's a creature that gets, can get more, certain, lower it is, little things benefit the DM. Until you get stuff like 50 points or more, that player is petrified. And if you are not restored after 24 hours, you are transported immediately to the Feywild into a garden of similar statues, and you decorate the grounds of the deck's capricious creator, which, as a story, sounds amazing. But then 60 or more points, next time you're reduced to 0 hit points, you die, and your soul takes the place of the dealer, who is now free to continue their destined afterlife. So that, again, be careful what you wish for. Being like, it's just so cool.
Playing that game, keep wanting to get those wishes.
Oh, but like, again, you wouldn't know this until you died. So this you might play this and you go, great, I got the wishes, great, and then just so happens, like maybe several sessions long, you die and you go, oh shit, because you made a note somewhere. You go, no,
sorry,
yeah, and you can't be brought back or anything like that unless you cannot be resurrected until another soul takes your place, or if the deck's creator frees you, rendering the deck mundane. So having its own quest to go sort it out.
I like it though. I really like it. It's
Oh,
very good.
Very good. No, I just think that's stuff like that where it's a little bit of chance, a little bit of whimsy, like any of those games, like try and find the ball in the cups and stuff like that. But you're risking so much more. Yeah, so cool.
They actually can I skip to a little bit ahead then, because on that we can go back because you're talking about games. There are a few games in this which I think are quite fun. I think that it just sticks on a riff. So in one of the encounters, which is like a mini sort of adventure, really more than just an encounter, I'd say, the way they're calling them. So there's one called A Midsummer's Night's Festival, and so you attend this festival, and it has carnival games. So there's a bull strength, and you can do sort of attempt a strength check to push the ball into the farthest circle possible, winning 10 tickets, so you gain tickets and stuff like that, like a proper carnival. Cool. There's a Hayfield Havoc. A group of sheep roam in a field. Characters can attempt a wisdom animal handling check to corral the sheep into enclosure. Sort of like fun little games like that.
That's really cool.
Lady Luck, there's another card game. There's a Magic Missile game, which is it's basically darts. Ocean's Bounty, where you can do fishing, and a Wheel of Chance sort of thing, and you can win tickets on that. And then there's one thing and then the tickets buy you prizes, like a potion of healing, or some plush toys of a kraken, a purple worm, a manticore, an owlbear, and a dragon. You can also there's festival food like berry pie and spiced wine, or a lucky clover, which is another one of the items. And then finally on this games front, and I don't know if you clock this, there is Modron chess.
Really? No.
Yes, I know you love Modrons.
I love Modrons. No, I didn't see that.
So they've reorganised a chess piece set, and this is under the Gloaming Gale and Goldie, which is actually a really good adventure. I've only read parts of it, but I quite like the characters they've created. Quite interesting. But you play chess where you've got quadrones as rooks, duodrones as knights, tridrones as bishops, and obviously pentadrones and as the kings and queens. And then but these actual characters play big chess with these with Gloaming Gale and Goldie are like the queens. So they're actual players, and it's like you play live big chess with little mini Modrons.
Oh my god.
I know.
Oh my god.
I know, exactly. And then you've got Monodrones.
I love
obviously.
Modrons.
Yeah, exactly. So I just quite liked that they've got a chess. So I want, if someone wants to make a chess set out of Modrons, I'll
yes,
buy
please. It's gone. I bought.
Yeah.
Oh. But then, but they would be, because obviously on the I can't remember what their plane is called now, but everyone takes average damage. So when they take out another character, they probably have to take themselves out at the same time to sort of balance the equilibrium. So you just constantly just.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, they would hate it, wouldn't they? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's very good.
But that's so cool, and I love that idea. Like again, it's very carnival-esque, but that Midsummer Night's Dream, that sort of all these things. That's so cool. Like having carnival games. We always have shopping episodes. We always have there is a festival on. So yeah, if it's not in the Feywild, that's totally fine. But taking those stuff out is really cool, and I love the idea of winning like a plushy thing. Like it doesn't, it's nothing into it, but it's such a lovely flavour thing, which we're all into, let's face it. well, let's go on to the flowers then. So what are the flowers of the Feywild, the chapter's called? So what is it about it?
Yeah, so it gives you, it kind of reminded me of Witcher and Animal Crossing, as I said to you, of like, it gives you loads of little sort of medicinal and herbs and flowers that you can go and collect in the Feywild that are sort of around there, and you can make you can use a herbalism kit or using intelligence checks to find these, but they all have their own wondrous and fabulous sort of effects that they can do. You know, so you want to be in the Feywild, you want to see what these flowers can do to you, don't you? Basically,
you just want to get there and start eating whatever's on the ground. That's what our players do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some like the one that's like again. You said to me Animal Crossing. For me, I was thinking like back in the day when Pokemon, after the first iterations and stuff, they were like, we want to include berries so that it makes it stronger, and I never used them. But this, I could definitely see using stuff. So the one that stood out to me was like bold berry bulb, got BBB. You cannot be charmed or frightened. You have advantage on strength saving checks and saving throws, and when you make a melee attack using strength, you can add a d4 to damage. So it's just the idea of that bravado and that sort of like, haha. Yes. I thought that was quite good. And
I like the Crow Feeder. Again, it's a very dark one, but it's like flowers, black petals, resemble the drooping wings of a raven and appear to drip with unsettling black ink. As an action, you can throw this flower up to 15 feet. When you do, a sphere of inky pollen ripples out in a 60-foot radius from where it landed. Each hostile creature in there must make a Constitution saving throw. A target takes 8d6 necrotic damage.
It's a lot.
Get one of those at a low level. That's a pretty... Every creature in a 60-foot radius. I mean,
that's a lot.
That is quite a lot. And once the flower is released upon it, withers. If a creature treads on this flower while it's growing out of the ground, though, the similar effect occurs, and all creatures in a 60-foot radius. It might be great to get, but if you're looking for it, it's a dangerous game.
Absolutely, yeah, and to get one of these flowers as well, or to identify it, you've got to make a DC 16 intelligence check, and just to say that once you've picked it, it's survives for like 7 days and then wilts. But if it goes to any other plane after 24, when it goes to any other plane, it does wilt after a while. So I think that is interesting. But I didn't read the end of that idea that it's almost like a mine in a way, and you're like,
yes.
Oh no,
exactly.
Be careful where you do.
There's some other good ones. The Oculith I liked, which just gives you
that was the one that was the creepiest one for me.
It's got a little
I thought
eye
that was super creepy
in the petals, and well, you can mention receive visual information with eye, which is normal vision and true sight out to 60 feet. Once you've accessed the flower's vision, it begins to decay and completely wilts in 24 hours. But it lasts up to 7 days, and you can basically leave it as a sort of basically like a little security camera. Sort of thing, which is quite useful.
Yeah, like putting it in like a tavern or something that you're staying in, and just like
you want to spy on someone, just
exactly.
It's quite. I quite like it.
Yeah. I quite liked Toril's Bright Hope. So that's the one at the end. So it's like a cloudy white moss. When a creature dies from something other than old age, I like the fact you had to clarify what. Within 15 feet where the flower is planted, it returns that creature to life with 1 hit point, and then the flower withers away. So it's like a one-off. This is the thing, which I think is amazing.
Phoenix down.
Yeah, it is a phoenix down, absolutely. And you can uproot the flower, and if you do that, press it against yourself or a creature within 5 feet. The target regains 3d8 plus 4 hit points. So again, it's like a quick save if they don't within 15 feet. But I just like the idea that all is lost in this thing, that person falls, and then nobody, oh God, what we're gonna do? And then they're back, and maybe they don't know why, and they have to look around to see where a flower has wilted or something like that. And because again, you need to be proficient in like nature or herbalism or something like that to gain the use of this. But I just love that as a little hidden thing, having like the idea of flowers and stuff. So
I feel it's something that's missing for druids a bit, and I feel it's like, and the herbalism and the sort of alchemy. There's not really an alchemy class in D&D that I mean people have made them, but it's something that I always think is ripe for making, and this kind of allows that sort of play, which I think is, as I said, it's in lots of RPG games and stuff like that. That sort of alchemy, it's in Skyrim and Witcher and all those ones, and it just feels like it's adding a very critical part of RPGs that hasn't been added. So I really like that, and I'd like to more of it would be really good, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, I think because you've got 16 different flowers there, and I'm sure you could make up something your own, just taking like a simple magic item of some sort and then transferring it over to them, like anything like that. Like you've got stuff like there's like a glass orchid one which you crush and makes you invisible for an hour. So similar things there. Again, really cool. And again, all that flavour stuff as well. You can go on a proper big hunt and looking at all these beautiful pictures of flowers and going, what can these make?
Yes, exactly. 100%. Cool. We're getting very late in the day, so...
We are, so what are you thinking as a final sort of send-off?
I I think all I would say that there's really cool Fey portals. They're very much what you could imagine, but there's some really fun ones, and they have some really interesting effects of crossings that could cause some fun things. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything on them.
Yeah, so we have spoken about this idea of Fey crossing, so that they could be anything. It could literally be under a fallen trunk. You could swim across a lake, etc. We'd actually talked about it in season 2, episode 19, because I looked that up earlier, with Darren and Kenny talking about the Feywild and the Shadowfell, and obviously we talked a little bit about the Feywild last week. But the idea of Fey crossing, so that if something, you need to make a saving throw as you cross of some description, and if you fail it, one of these effects happens. So again, people love their tables and stuff. So the ones that sort of stood out for me was that you forget common, but you gain another language of your choice. Which I thought interesting. That could be good because, again, common. I guess in the Feywild, maybe common isn't a language there. They all speak Sylvan or even like just Elvish in general, which your dwarven character might not. I quite liked. There's some that I was like interesting. So, like you gain the creature type Fey and are bound to the laws of hospitality to always speak the truth and seek permission before entering like a home. Yeah. So your rogue is fucked really if you get that.
But everything you can always work the truth, can't you?
Little white lies. I think it's fine. I mean, this is the thing as well. All these things are very role play esque. I think. Everything you must say must rhyme. Each time you fail, you take one.
In my game as well.
I know. I was gonna say I've seen you do that in games. I think it's great, but every time you fail, you take 1 psychic damage just to remind you.
Yeah, I did it in a one-shot before I did this, and I made it so that you had to take psychic damage. The only way that you can do it to stop people, failing it is evil. It's an evil thing to do to someone.
And then the final one, which I quite liked, is that you arrive later than the others travelling through the crossing at the same time. You look battered, missing a significant amount of coin, and smell suspiciously of booze, yet have no memory of what has occurred. Yes. So I think that's always a cool one. So like if for whatever reason you're a player is missing from a session or something, and then they just appear, and you could even have like a quick like let's do a quick one scene sort of thing, what happened, but then nobody else knows what happened to them, and I just thought that was a very cool like little spotlight moment you can have with the players. So
that is very cool. That is really cool. I like that. I've done that. I've actually done that with just them getting drunk before, when someone's not been able to be there. Just said they went out reveling, and used the revelry table that's online. Cool. There's a D101, I think, is quite good. And and then do a little bit of an intro of like, I had one where I rolled it and they woke up naked in a church, and it's like in some sort of temple. And so we just role played just a little scene of how the cleric coming in going, "What the fuck are you doing here?" So I was like, what shit, what am I doing? And like, having them to do it was quite fun, actually. And then trying to hide. They saw them coming in, actually, and they were ranger, so they tried to hide. And then they went into the vestibule to try and sort of stole the robe, but it actually turned out to be the robe of the person that they were hiding from, and so that was quite fun. They just had a lot of fun with it. So
that's amazing. I love that.
It was great, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I like, that was like, I can't remember his real name now, but the guy in Community that comes in with pizza and everything's on fire.
Yes.
That's the energy I see.
100%.
I guess the only thing I want to quickly, I know we've definitely ran over time, but very, very quickly, because again, I'm sure people will look at this as one thing we talked about a little bit last week, very briefly, is this idea of butterflies and this sort of motif of wings going out. And I did want to do a quick shout out to one of the again, in the bestiary, there's so many
some great ones,
some really interesting ones, and I highly recommend having a look through those, because they're just interesting. I think is this idea of having butterflies of the Feywild, which are, again, they act almost like as small creatures, which can be swarms, etc. And you think, oh, that's really lovely, and then you turn a page and it goes, and now for the butterfly queen. Woo!
Yeah, 100%. None can resist her command.
Exactly, yeah, and it's just this whole lore over 2 pages of this idea that somebody's chosen and then they're taken, cocooned up for 14 days, and they emerge as the butterfly queen.
It's great. It is great. It's great. And then a shout out to the Beauty of the Beast with the candlings.
Yes, the candlings are so cool. This idea of little floating candles, and there's some again with all these monsters as well. They have little adventure hooks about where you could put them in to places, and so they're almost like spotted where will-o'-the-wisps have been seen, and it's almost like I don't want to say a gang mentality, but will-o'-the-wisps obviously are been seen traditionally as evil things, and then you're like, these creatures are they neutral? Typically lawful neutral, so they'll come and help. In this adventure, you go and try and clear out some will-o'-the-wisp, and some candlelings come and help. So this idea of like bobbing strange lights and then candles coming in, it's just
marching in a little line. You can imagine it. Be our guests. Sorry.
Oh, good. No, it's true. I like the go away. You won't have the thing today. I don't know.
There are some great ones. I could go on, like Genius Loci I really liked as well. Yeah. Oh, really good art for that.
All the art. I mean, we've said this at the top of the episode, but there's been so many things, like full page ones. There's the Fey Norn, who has a whole picture, and all I'll say about the Fey Norn very quickly is it just says, death in the Feywild is a fluid matter. So make of that what you will. But yeah, there's enough creatures here to be like short encounters, big boss battles and stuff. 100%. And obviously we've not even touched, like, there's over 50 little adventure hooks, and there's 6 sort of big encounters, and then 2 adventures, and a domain of delight as well, Dualis, which has a Fey Lord called the Lord of Reflections. And it all ties back to this idea, like you were saying, about this idea of reflections, inner truth, mystery, perceiving things, false appearances. It's just...
I love Dualis. I love the one, can I say the hook that it has? That the minute you enter, a duplicate of you is made.
What? I missed that.
Yeah, so the minute you enter Dualis, a duplicate of you is made unaware to you until you obviously find out the story. And if you see the Lord of Reflections states as their decree that your reflection is evil, and that is the mandatory thing. A lot of people in the city have a belief that that's not true, and there's a sort of rebellion against this idea. So there's a whole... I was just like... And if you see your reflection character, you must attack it, or the guards will attack you. Because otherwise... Because they will see that if you're going against the rules, and if you're seeing as then you must be the evil one, because you're going against the rules. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, my word.
So there's sort of... There's such a lot of, like... I was like... that was in, like, the first 4, and I was like, okay... I love it. Fantastic. Really, 100, but 5 stars on Dualis.
5 stars.
And a really great little map. And there's lots of little areas. It's not just one city. It's got loads to it.
Yeah, the map is very cool. Again, very much like Wild Beyond the Witchlight in the way it's set out. But so can I ask then? So with that mirror image then of yourself, can you deliberately tell it's a mirror? Like, is there something that decrees it as?
You look exactly the same as you, but they are mirrored. So if you had a mole on this side of my face, it would have a mole on that side of his face, for example. So literally that. And one element about them is different, but you don't quite know what it is. So cool. I will try and find the actual wording here.
Yeah, but I guess because I know, like, it's a big thing in D&D to always go against versions of yourself, whether it's evil versions or mirrored versions or doppelgangers and stuff like that. So I love that idea, and there's a lore behind it that you have to kill them on sight, and then people disagree with it. That instantly is a world of stories in there, and that idea of politics as well. Like, this is the done thing, but we don't like it, and great.
It says here, so it was actually there is something else different about it. It could be a different interest, talent, or personality trait. Rarely they've asked it, so it's more like a twin, as they're saying. So it's like someone that something about them that's just subtly different. Anyway, I loved it.
Cool.
Loved it.
That's really cool. Well, Hamilton, we've definitely run over time, but thank you so much for agreeing to read 150 pages.
Well, it was a delight. I want to say, I know I felt we started off with the sort of a sort of negative, but it was not really. I just felt it really is a great body of work. So I really enjoyed it.
I think, and I wouldn't say negative. I think it's seeing things from a different perspective. Yeah. Like, some people would be like, absolutely, we want to have the orphan. I'm alone, Batman, exactly. No parents, etc. Yeah, that and that's totally fine. But I think maybe you and I are of that sort of ilk now, where we're just like, we just want people to have fun.
Yeah.
Let's not have sad stuff. Let's just have happy and it's a bit dangerous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think there's definitely some bits of it where I'm like, not sure, but stuff like the flowers, certainly the Feywild butterflies.
I think they were them.
Oh, the glass whales stuff. Yeah, we didn't even touch those. Exactly. Shambling bouquet was the other one I thought was. In my head, I was thinking, like, because there was, we need to finish the episode, but there's an adventure hook where an Eladrin hosts almost like the Royal Chelsea Flower Show. Right. And they're all got shambling mounds, and everyone's trying to trick each other into destroying it and stuff. And you're just like, shambling bouquet. Sorry, shambling mounds is obviously the actual creature.
Yeah. I was thinking of a wedding.
Throwing the
shambling bouquet, and you've got, but instead of it being that, they throw it out into the ground, and you've got to fight it, and whoever kills the shambling bouquet, is next to be married or something like that.
Wow! Oh, that's such a twist. I love that because then you can have almost like as a one shot, a brizillas and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Look at that. It's
going to work in our Strixhaven, Oath of Beauty, Girls. It's gonna. It's all happening.
Look at that. Look at the content we're driving out. Like, if someone's watching this, has probably made it up for DM's Guild now. We've lost out.
Exactly. We're too late. It's already done.
It's already done. Well, Hamilton, thank you so much for joining me on this another trip into the Feywild. Tell us, what are you up to? What is the stuff to signal boost?
So
what's up with
when this will be out, it will be the Thursday before our grand finale of our season 2 one-shots, where everyone's done their individual one-shots. So we've had our Mausoleum Chronepsis, sort of Dark Soulsy one. We've had our pirates, our Sheller pirates getting the essence of Olay, talking about one of Olay earlier, and then we've had our Githfits in their Battle of Bands, who ended up stumbling through into the Cult of Dragons headquarters and got their Tesla coil. Now they've got all the items together, they've all been teleported in their portals through to the Dragon Vault, and it's now time to see if we can stop these dragons terrorising Faerun. That's basically it. Simple stuff. But yeah, that's our grand finale, and that will be on Saturday. So that's what we're doing. And then
that's so cool. And can people rewatch those one-shots and stuff that you've done?
You can, yes. We have a YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube and search Dragon's Duel and scroll past a few of the Yu-Gi-Oh ones, if you try Dragon's Duel and D&D game show, that's probably the best way to do it. And if you go to our link tree as well, it's there. But yes, and our website will be up. So if you go to dragonsduel, all one word, .co.uk, you'll find all our videos there as well. Yes.
Very exciting
What about yourself, Fiona? What have you been up to? What
Little old me. So obviously my name is Fiona. I run the What Am I Rolling podcast, which is a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it is going very, very well. There is stuff I can't talk about, and I can't talk about it, and it's very exciting, but also terrifying. So there's that's going on behind the scenes, but we're doing other stuff that's coming out. Warhammer's currently going out. Again, you've got a schedule. I can't remember what happened in my podcast, but there'll be stuff like Vert's coming out at some point. I'm recording. This is obviously in the past for most people, but in my future, I'm recording a one shot of the Doctor Who 2nd edition RPG on Sunday with some people who were on. They used to be on something called the Ood podcast, or the Oodcast it's called, which apparently was the #1 Doctor Who fan cast in the UK.
Right.
I didn't know. So we'll be running some Doctor Who for them, so that'll be very exciting. And I'm sure I'll be doing improv at some point, so if you're ever in London in person, come to Hoopla, which is at the Miller pub, which is also Hoopla, and you probably see me doing some stuff on stage and going, she's much better on a podcast.
So much better edited.
Exactly.
Where's the Miller? Whereabouts is that?
So the Miller is actually at London Bridge.
I think I've been there.
You might have been there. It's next to St Guy's and Thomas's, which for your American listeners have no idea where it is.
I have been there because I used to work on Southwark Street. So
no way! See, look at this incredibly small world.
Hey, all other podcasts are like, LA. When I'm on the 404 or 101, here we go. We can talk about
London Bridge. London Bridge.
It's the Shard. People know the Shard. It's there.
It's right next to the Shard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just don't. But the Shard doesn't do improv. Could you imagine? Just like.
Would make it more tense, I guess, if you're up.
Oh God! Could you imagine? Just don't look down.
Yeah, exactly.
But just to finally finish off, obviously we do have an offer code for Third Space Gaming, which is your friendly local game store in Burnley, so where I'm originally from. If you type in the code, I'll do the action for it, but although our listeners won't be able to see it, but DMBC, like a cat doing a typewriter, into the Third Space Gaming's website, you get 10% off your first order. So whether that is an RPG book or terrain, or even, I'm sure, if you ask nicely, you can, if I pull it out, I know Hamilton seen this, but a beautiful Witchlight alternate cover, and as a result now, because I used to hold out on not getting alternate covers for stuff because I was like, no, I need to look plain, and now I'm like, I'm an idiot. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever owned.
It's amazing. It looks so lovely.
It's gorgeous.
I need to buy it. I need to go find and buy it. Yeah.
And so those alternate covers are only available in gaming stores. So go support your gaming stores. Don't go to evil Amazon like I tried to. And then I was like, no, actually, I didn't get delivered. So I was like, too bad. I'm going to Orc's Nest near me. But yes, so do support them. And yes, I guess next week we'll be back with a brand new topic. I'm sure we'll think of something then, and maybe we'll make it a bit snazzier going out. Rather than going,
like I did last week. Because I knew we were doing this, I will show a screen after this that will say, see you next week with, and it will tell you what it is. So, like last week you would have seen it for this one, you will see next week what next week's one is. So in 5 seconds' time, you will know what it is.
Great. I won't know, but future me will know. We don't know.
You will know.
All right, well, until next time, friends, thank you so much for joining us, and we will speak to you, see you next time. Okay, love you.
Love you. Bye.